good evening, good afternoon, and wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. I've been digesting all that's going on around, and it's like a bad meal coming up sour. Well, we have to realize that we are all our relations, the AOR, all our relations. That's all scale, feathered, skin, bird, brothers and sisters, all bacteria, all fungus, we're all one relation. When we see ourselves as exceptional and our life is more important than anybody else's, it's not really a life worth living. I'm in my 70s, and all my life I've basically lived with everyone around me. And early on in my life, um, I was a little peanut of a kid, and so I was almost invisible. And then I was murdered by a nun in first grade, around 8. Then it took me 2.5 years to recoup from that, and I stayed with a group of Marinols, and they were actually it was a sanctuary, and it wasn't a seminary or a nunnery. It was a place of great sharing. There was about 30 guys and 40 women that lived together. I mean, they lived in their own little space, but they worked and shared their lives together, and they mostly spent their life um, out amongst the community, helping them out, teaching them, working in hospitals, working in jails, working in schools. And they were all very well educated, and they were scholarly rather than uh, monastic or theologically belief structured oriented, or they weren't scholastics, right? They were scholars. And they were comfortable, but they lived not in poverty, but they did not live a materialistic life, right? Whatever they had, they shared with everybody. And I picked that up. My grandmother was very similar that way, and she brought me up. And I really only spent, I went back to my folks at 7, and like around spring, and then fall, I was sent off to first grade and got murdered by a nun, and I ended up being taken care of by my godfather. And I always had mentors, right, in my life, people who saw in me something that I didn't see, and they tried to bring out what they saw in me, and that was okay. Even though as I got older, I didn't want to be sculpted into whatever they had envisioned for me. And that is one of the issues of life. It's one of those things of, again, I say the biggest conflict in humanity is the dynamic of conditional love and unconditional love. My grandmother's love for me was unconditional. The love for me in that sanctuary, that community, was unconditional. Um, and as a young boy in New York, I used to go everywhere. I would just hop on the subway, go downtown, get on a bus. As a little kid, no one ever asked for a token. I mean, I would just open up the door and walk through. And I was so small, I'd walk underneath the turnstile, and no one even noticed me. I would go to all the museums, and when I was really young, when I could walk, my grandmother and I would walk 100 blocks every day, just so I would get worn out. And we went to all the museums and all the interesting places, the libraries in New York. And, and that's why I learned how to be in a community. No matter where I was in community. And so that's why I'm now, right? But I'm out in the middle of the woods. I have very little. I mean, extraordinary, very little. Right? I'm like looking for coins in my cushions to get my car fixed and to buy food. And right now, my garden is just pushing out that last bit of whatever it has, and I'm, you know, um, experiencing an interesting dynamic of poverty. And it's okay because I live out in a beautiful place. Last night it was interesting in that it was the first night that I really got cold. Went down into the 30s. Right? Now we will have our Indian summer, and probably the month of October will be nice and warm in the 70s during the day, maybe even in the 80s, and in the 60s at night. But I live in a holler, so it's damp. So I felt when I woke up this morning, I felt like a cold mushroom, and that's kind of what I'm looking at this winter. Right? And I have no money for heat, so I have no heat. And John told me, "You can't come and stay with me. I can't afford you." Well, he keeps the whole school um, heated with electricity. And I was only there for 3 weeks, and he heated the school for 4 months. So, and that's again, I keep saying John is a canary in the coal mine. He's the example of what our culture is. And his last video was his little tour of his parents' house. No, if I had to live here, I could. I mean, it's a beautiful home. His mother's a great cook. She loves him. His parents have supported him his whole freaking life. He stayed in Texas for a month at a nice hotel that probably cost $200 a night. So, John didn't pay for that. His parents did, and I have no one who's alive. And that's okay. If you want to send me something in my PayPal, that'd be great. Dudewake42 at Gmail, Dudewake42 at Gmail. So anyway, that's about it. And I probably will do less and less of these. Now, I've got a good 2,000 shows on my channel. So go and look at them. Right? Stick them on a thumb drive. I mean, there's a lot of great information there. I did a lot of great healing meditations. I did lots of insight, lots of great stories. If you like the old phone stories, I have tons of them up there. But, I'm ready for something different, that's for sure. Corporate world, come and get me. Can definitely help you out. So, that's about it. I mean, there's no one here to chat with. No one's watching. And so, goodbye, good luck. We just see the world around you guys, environmentally, geopolitically, within the structure of our own country. I'll leave it with one last story. Around 2016, when John threw me out, I was basically sleeping at the Texas Tavern. It's this hot dog restaurant that stays open 24/7, 365 since like 1921, right? And they keep it warm, and they let anybody sit in there. You can drink your 1 cup of coffee all night long. It's kind of a fun place. And so that was my place, and I was asleep on the counter. This guy kind of nudged me, and it was a guy I knew, and it was one of the usual suspects. There's about 30 or 40 people go to all the meetings, Plowshare and things of that nature, and they don't do anything. They just go to meetings, right? And they don't really do anything. They don't help anyone but themselves. Most of them come from pretty well families. They got trusts and things of that nature, and so they don't really have to work. And this guy nudges me, and it's him. What's his name? And he has a scam where he considers himself a minister. He tells everyone he's a minister. I mean, I should say I was a minister of fun, but he's a Christian minister, right? And his missionary work is he has this nonprofit, I think it was called Reach, where young kids from college, white young people, would come and have a urban experience, and all that would do is they would sleep on whatever place you could get them, like the Red Cross or the Salvation Army or some church for, and then he'd take them to the mission, and they would take cans and put it on the shelf, and that was their college experience of outreach to the poor community, right? And he would get $400 a kid, right? And so he would, have 10 kids. That'd be $4,000 a weekend, right? So that was his hustle. Anyway, so he kind of, and I'd been in Roanoke for almost 15 years by then. And, it's pretty messed up. I was still walking with a walker. Anyway, he said, and I had been involved in a lot of things. I'd been involved in Occupy, involved in Roanoke gardens. We started 9 gardens in the poor communities, and we got community to grow their own food, and a lot of art things I've done. I had a little performance space downtown for poetry and performance art, and like I had in Asheville, and I had in New York, like I had in DC. And, so anyway, so Tim said, "So what are you doing now?" And I said, "I'm sleeping here in the Texas Tower." He goes, "Well, listen, I saw this, the First Christian Church, which it was in Roanoke, which is right downtown, right across the street from the police station, right from Okies, right next to Red Cross, right down the street from Channel 10, right up the road from, the courthouse and the city hall, right in downtown. Right? Beautiful church too, about 125 years old, and had a sanctuary that you could about 400 people in. Had a great hall downstairs, with a gigantic kitchen, and in the back of the building, there 3 floors of classrooms. And none of this has been used at all because the constituency of the church just got older and older, to the point where there were only 30 people left in the church. They were all rich, and they wanted to get a young minister and get some young people in there, some parents, and so they could revivify the church. So when they died, it would continue to go. So he goes, "Why don't you come and help me? You can be the community outreach guy, because that's kind of what I do." So I said, "Okay." I said, "I need a place to stay." He said, well, I don't know. Maybe we'll put you in a closet. Well, he showed me the place. It was just amazing, right? And it's loads of, probably had 40,000 square feet, gigantic space, and with only 30 people as their constituency. So, I started figuring out what to do with the place, and first thing I ran into these two old Jamaican grandmas who just wanted to start a restaurant and start cooking for people. Hey, Fish, I haven't had gas to get to the post office, but I'll get there sooner or later. So, it's either go to one end of the county and go to the post office, or go to the other end to the side of the county and go to the doctor. So I chose to go to the doctors. So anyway, so I got these girls and I said, listen, what we're going to do is you're going to cook, we're going to have lunch, we're going to call it the No Fear Cafe, and it's right in the middle of everything, right? So we're not going to charge anything, which is going to take donations, right? And don't worry, you'll make a lot of money. And this way you don't have to buy a building, you don't have to get any permits, pay any taxes. This is a church, tax-free, right? I don't have to pay the electric bill, don't have to heat the place, air condition the place, don't have to do nothing except go in and cook and take the money. And they said, okay. And so we started it, and I told Tim about it, and he said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So we did it. And it was right down the street from the newspaper and TV station. They came and took pictures. Boom. I made flyers, and I brought them to all the law offices, all the doctors' offices, all the judges, all the police that were like within 5 blocks of this place, right? So then the first day we had 100 people, right? And they had these big tables. I could sit 10 people, right? They had about 20 of these gigantic tables. So I was the maitre d', and I made sure there was a lawyer, a doctor, an Indian chief, a judge, a few homeless people, a few nurses, a few policemen, and I'd sit there with them, take their order, and then but start a conversation, right? And then there were these 3 granddaughters of the grandmas, and they took over. And then I'd sit more people, and then I'd go around with a bucket, right? As they were getting ready. And they said, so who do we pay? I said, well, the meal is free, but we love it if you could donate something to the No Fear Cafe. And so the rich people, the lawyers, the doctors, Indian chiefs, the judges, they take out a 5. I'd kind of look in their wallet, and they'd throw in a couple of 20s. So first, right, we had $1,000, right? So they hired more people, so they didn't have to do all the work, and they paid everyone. And I said, you got to pay everybody, and we'll just pay cash. We don't keep any real books. This is a church, right? No tax. And so we went on that way, and it became extraordinarily popular, right? And I kept, I put big signs out, homeless people, come on in for a meal. This was wintering time was happening. So they kind of came in, and I sat homeless people down with, the judges, lawyers, and Indian chiefs, And so Tim was getting, we can't do that. There's people, the rich people over here and all the poor. I said, no, that's not the No Fear Cafe way, buddy. Anyway, so we were doing that. And so every Tuesday, I had a thing called Freedom Tuesday, right? And you could come and have a discussion or a meeting or anything, but it had to be about how to do things better. It couldn't be a negative thing, couldn't be a whiny thing, couldn't be oh, I hate those people. It had to be how to get the people together, right? So we basically got the folk together, and Fish, I'm going to go to the post office tomorrow. So, but I am down to, in my checking account, I have $1.19. Right? So anybody wants to throw something into my PayPal, that would be really nice. Due to Wake 42 at Gmail. Let's see if anyone has put anything in the old PayPal. Uh-huh. Anyway, so that's that. No one sent anything in on the old PayPal. That's okay. Again, when you have nothing, it really makes you appreciate having what you do have. Right? And it helps you stand up to help others. Right? You find that when you see any movement going on, it isn't the rich people leading, it's the people who are poor and desperate. And they realize there are other people who are in more need than they are, right? And so that's what I did at that church, right? There was a lady named B who was like a force of nature, great singer, great artist, great activist. So I let her start a theater there. There was a woman who was a ballerina. I got her to teach ballet. We started a daycare center so moms um, and pops who work leave their kids there. We started after school um, scene, so kids whose moms and pops were working and were poor, we give them a meal. The Jamaican ladies would have extra food, and we'd feed the kids and make packages to go home to the families. And then those people started to come to church. And so within a month that I was there, um, we got about 100 new parishioners into the church. But they were Black, Hispanic, Chinese, and LGBTQ, and poor. And the 30 white people got upset. And so they were paying Tim $45,000 a year to be their minister. And he was not ordained. Did not go to theological school. He knew nothing about the Bible. Um, and those people were fine with that. And but they let it go on because every Sunday I would because I was kind of living upstairs in the bell free. That I'd be there and talk to them all and ask them how their day was and their week was, and I'd be there because they had nothing else to do. They get there an hour early, and open up the church, warm it up, cool it down, whatever it was, and talk to them and have tea, like tea in their vestibule, right? And so that got the church to stick around for another um, 3 months, and then and one of those meetings on Tuesdays, this woman came in and she had the cure for cancer. Right? She was brilliant, and she put it all out on the whiteboard. Everyone was kind of going, and I understood what she was talking about. And then, since no one was interested in having a discourse, she just said, "Well, I'll see you guys later," and walked away. And so I basically said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa!" I ran after or hobbled after her and said, "Well, who are you? What you talking to?" Well, I manage a bar downtown. And she goes, "I'll be there tomorrow. Day cleaning. Why don't you come visit?" Did we talked? We hit it off. Um, and I said, "Well, just come on and visit every Tuesday, or come for lunch if you got time." And anyway, so she did, and we started to have a nice little friendship. And how she one day she goes, "I need a roommate. You want to be my roommate?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds fun." And that day was the day that they found out that I was sleeping upstairs, so they threw me out. And again, they weren't paying. They're paying Tim $45,000 a year to do nothing, and so I basically. Sure. I mean, right at the time I needed a place, she said, "Why don't you be my roommate?" So I was, and that worked out great. And she turned out to be a he, and that was okay. And that whole building was full of you know, transsexual sex workers in Roanoke, and it was right there on the top of the hill. And I lived upstairs in her apartment. You went into a closet and a staircase that went up to the attic, and the attic was quite big. All the heat of the building went up there, so it was quite warm, and it had windows all the way around. It was quite bright during the day, so it was quite nice. And you know, so I continued to do, but I set up everything in the until that girl she didn't like working at that bar, so she because she's really brilliant, I got her to be Tim's assistant, and all the ladies loved her, even though she was a guy and they didn't realize that. And she could play the organ and the piano. So she was always playing the organ in the church and playing the piano downstairs. So there was always music there, and she had a great voice. She was singing, and it was quite interesting. And I just kept doing the outreach, meaning I stopped going into the church because the old lady was running the restaurant just fine, and Tim wanted to be the guy, the person, who sat people down, where he sat all the rich people over there and all the poor people over here, and creating separation, and the other, where I had everyone together as all our relations, as Jesus would say. And so, right off the bat, I told the old ladies, listen, save your money. And what's going to happen is these people are first going to say that you're great, and because once it got the church notoriety, the TV people came, the newspaper people came, and the FCC was in the news first time, in 40 years, and good news, right? So I knew that was not to last. As soon as Tim got his ego involved, and I used to he brought his reach into that school, and I used to bring those kids to the hood, and there was a place called Hope Center, and they had been doing what we did for a real long time, for 20 years, and but they didn't have a gigantic church, right? I tried to move them in there, but it's too white for them. But I would bring these kids from these colleges to really, during the Friday, and so they'd be with the kids, and they could help them with their homework, and and then I take them to other places that were doing similar things that weren't big organizations like, the Mission or Habitat or Goodwill or any of those entities that basically exist for their own reason, right? They're there because they're making money. Like the guy who does, Goodwill in our neck of the wood, he and his family take home $3 million a year, right? So, and that's how this system of tax-free works in America, right? Look at, within less than 2 years, good old what's his name, Carrot Head and JoJo sent about $10 trillion out the door for COVID, blah blah blah, and starting things up again, blah blah blah. And that's where we got the inflation. When you dump that kind of money into the economy, of course you're going to get inflation. But the people who got most of the money were the rich folk, right? And this little dust up in, I forgot what state I guess it's whatever state, what state is that? Mississippi. And that big football hero took $5 million from the money that was set aside for homeless people, and he built a squash court or some kind of sports center with his name on it. And those other guys took out $250 million from the, that's how most, tax-free goes, right? Whereas the places that are run by poor people were just doing it because they seen the need, because they had that need too. And I would go get rich people to give those centers money um, in Roanoke. So that's what I did for 15 years there. And so when we were doing the, Truth Tuesdays, and I'd make a, big pot of soup, and my grandmas would make a big pot of soup and bake some Jamaican bread, and that's what we'd have for Tuesday nights. And so from the first day the grandmas were there, I said, listen, save your money because you're going to start your own restaurant from this. This is just, seeding you, right? So save your money, right? And hire those people and train them because they're going to be your staff in your own restaurant. This is just a very temporary. Oh, it's this is great. We'll be here. I said, no. Handwriting's on the wall. These are all white people. You're black. They're rich. You're poor. You're doing a public service. They don't think that's right. So anyway, and that's kind of what happened. But they did save their money, and before they, and I kept talking up to the rich people. Hey, you like this food, don't you? Oh yeah, it's the best food in Roanoke. Would you like to have a restaurant for the grandmas? Would we? Yes, let's do this. So they did. And so I don't know how it's going because I haven't really been back to Roanoke since John threw me out the last time in 2017. So I haven't been there since September 17th. Right? So that's September 18th, September 19th, September 20th, September 21. So 5 years. I haven't been back with John for 5 years. Now last year, I went to visit him after New Year's, about January 25th or so. And then, he liked it that I was cooking for him and taking care of him. And then the big ice storm. So we got iced in there for 3 weeks. So I was there for 3 weeks. And helped him out here and there, And he said that I costed him money. So I do this as a service, I do this because I can. I do this because I know I help people. Because I have about 100 people who have contacted me at VegetaLake42 at Gmail, whose life was in a mess at the time they contacted me. Now it's not. So, and that's what life's about. That's what we should be doing for each other, right? And every day in every way, taking the piece of the earth and making it stronger. So, good luck. So in a few seconds, it'll be 30:33, and I will say au revoir, because I have things to do. Got to go to the doctor's, get myself ready for the winter. Maybe I'll come back tomorrow, maybe not. Maybe you won't see me at all. Because I really have no money. I mean, my car is not doing too well. I'm not doing too well. Winter's coming up, Last night it was in the 30s, and I just saw a little window of what it's going to be like. So, you may not see me. And that'll be fine for me. I'll be fine with that. Because I've died 7 times already. And I know that I'm not going anywhere until I do that 11% my masters told me I had to go back and do. So I've been doing pretty good. I think I have a little bit more to do. I thought I kind of stumbled into an interesting school, and I thought I was going to be a good mentor there. And the problem was everyone loved me too much, and the higher up told me I was overqualified. So anyway, I proved that. So hope you're all well. Love some comments on these shows. So I'll see you when I see you, whenever that is.